Good evening and welcome once again to Fired Up. I'm your host for the show, Bob Irwin. We are coming to you live from the office of Alan Butel here in downtown Las Vegas. Alan is a local attorney who does criminal and civil cases, and he is frequently a guest on the show, not tonight, because tonight I have an empty studio. I'll explain all this in just a little bit. We are recommending that if you need an attorney or want to have an attorney look at the case, you get a hold of Alan. You can find him on our website with a list of attorneys. Fired Up is on YouTube, as regular listeners know, with a new show every Thursday from 5 to 6 p.m. The YouTube version stays up 24/7. Once it's up, and stays online forever. There is a radio rebroadcast of the show that now is on the Nevada Talk Network. The main station is KELY, 1230 AM. That's in Ely, but if you go on your computer to KELY.com or the Nevada Talk Network, you will find that on Saturday mornings, starting just after 9 AM, our shows are on there if you want to listen to the show if you missed something. But the YouTube show stays up forever, so if you're near a computer, a laptop, or a cell phone, you can get our show. In any case, 24/7. We are looking at some very large changes here on Fired Up. I've alluded to a couple of times over the last few shows. I have entered a partnership agreement with a company here that broadcasts several YouTube shows now and has a office full of computers and cameras and teleprompters and all sorts of equipment that I have no idea what it actually does. But we have entered an agreement to move the broadcasts of Fired Up over to that facility. It's still here in town, near where the gun store is, where I used to work. They will produce the show, and we will have the next show will be on a regular schedule. We're going to run on Thursday still. We're going to start at 4:30 with those shows, and those shows will be in a half-hour format. Many of the YouTube and other media that broadcast these types of shows will prefer the half-hour format. We're going to film several of them ahead, so we can run them back to back if we need be. But in any case, we will start next Thursday, excuse me, on the November 2nd at 4 o'clock with our first show. It's the new series will have incredible graphics, split screens, where we're running a story about a 7-Eleven robbery where there is video of the robbery that will show on your screen. While we're talking about it, it'll go to split screen and so forth. Entirely a professional looking show, as we had years ago when this program started. So anyway, we will have a professionally produced show. We will have improved lighting, so we don't have the lights going off and on. We'll have improved sound. So hopefully the guests' mouths will exactly match what they're saying, what you're seeing in the broadcast, etc. Anyway, we will also start broadcasting on Facebook through their media, probably beginning the second week of this new setup. It's all a work in progress. You will see improvements every week as we get things put together. This is going to be a big improvement and a lot easier on the guests to get to and to park into, but the main thing is going to be the professionalism of the show. So all I have to do is write the outlines. I don't have to do pretty much of anything else. We're going to be on a number of media outlets at the same time, and we will inform listeners of those while we're doing it. A couple of things I want to mention. A little bit of a commercial here, and then I'm going to get into something else. I recently purchased a new Ford Escape over at Godden Ford. They were very nice, and I was kind of impressed with their professionalism when we got all done. Anyway, one of the sales manager, a fellow with the unlikely name of Moses Martinez, and the salesman name is Joe Tim, um, made me an offer when we got talking about Fired Up. It seems Joe Tim was a regular listener to Fired Up, and we've been Facebook friends for years. So they were aware of this, and he made me an offer if I would like to recommend Godden Ford to listeners. He will provide a special to the people that come in to buy a car, new or used. If you mention, now you have to talk to Moses Martinez or Joe Tim, Timm. But when you go there or make an appointment to talk to one of them, if you mention you would like the Fired Up discount, the Fired Up discount will get you their employee price on cars, which is invoice plus $100. It will give you a dramatic decrease in the cost of the car you're buying, just as a gift to Fired Up listeners. I don't know how long this is going to last, but if you're looking for a car, new or used, that there's anything on their lot is $100 over invoice. If you talk to Joe Tim or Moses Martinez and tell them that Bob sent you, or you want the Fired Up discount, and they will take care of it. You have to make an appointment. You have to talk to those two guys. It's their deal, and save you a lot of money. So now that I've mentioned that, I want to talk also a little bit about firearms training. I'm going to get all my sponsors in here while I'm doing this short show. We're talking about training, and I strongly recommend, because we talk so much on these shows about mistakes that are made with firearms, people getting sued and so forth. I'm going to talk about one of the cases in just a moment. Get some training. My ex-employer, the gun store, teaches a concealed weapon class at very low cost. You can take the class even if you're not going to get a concealed weapon permit. They will give you some idea of what you want to, what the rules of the road are. You can find the gun store, thegunstorelasvegas.com, and sign up on their website. I think it's $75 for the all-day concealed weapon course. That includes all your ammo and everything else, and $55 for renewals. Jerry Creed, a very good friend of mine, attorney. I've talked about him many times. He does firearms trusts, and particularly Class 3 trusts. The laws are changing dramatically in this area. ATF has loosened a lot of the rules and tightened a lot of others. If you have a firearms trust, especially a Class 3 trust, you need to get Jerry to look at it. He's out in Summerlin. He will look at it for nothing and tell you what it'll take to bring it up to current code. We've had a lot of people buy firearm trust kits online, and the thing is 1 or 2 pages. If it isn't at least 12 or 15, it is not covering all of the rule changes that trusts have, and it's probably not a valid trust. Get a hold of Jerry, 702-806-7777. Jerry Creed is his name. You will all recall, there's a case I want to talk about. I've talked about it once or twice on the show. A Las Vegas smoke shop clerk shot and killed a 13-year-old robber. There were 3 kids. The 13-year-old was the youngest. He was the leader, apparently. They crashed into a smoke shop, and the clerk fired at him. He ended up actually killing the 13-year-old. That case has now been adjudicated. Basically a plea reached and a settlement. It's still up to the judge what she's going to sentence the young man to. A lot of publicity on this case. Anyway, the next show that we're taping on November 2nd, I've got one of the attorneys who was involved in the defense of that case. We're going to be talking about the case as much as she can, which is a fair amount, because he's yet to be sentenced. He's being sentenced for the settlement out, and the big argument as to what the sentence will be at that time, of course. But basically, the young man was kind of pushed into a guilty plea, and I still personally believe what he did was absolutely within legal bounds. But there is reasonableness, and there is what the law is. And, well, there's some complications in the case, obviously. I can talk a little bit more about it next week's show when I have Paula here to talk about it. And we can share some information on that I don't want to share without her being here, because obviously a lot of things I know about the case are confidential still. And he's to be sentenced in February or early February and that will be up to the judge, of course, what happens. See what else I got here I got to talk about. I want to talk briefly about Grant Defense. I mentioned them normally on my show. He's about to become one of the major sponsors of the new version of Fired Up. I was happy to discover. We've talked about it, and they are working arrangements for him to do that. Keo Grant owns Grant Defense. It is on the corner of Russell and Decatur, and almost on the corner of Russell and Decatur. You can see it right there, big sign. Their back door backs up to the side door of the Dewey Animal Shelter. They make custom-built AR-15s. They build their own uppers and lowers and bolt carriers and all sorts of things here in Las Vegas, and some really cute Glock custom pistols. One of the early shows I'm going to have Grant on Mr. Grant on to show the pistols and so forth, because we'll be able to do that now with all kinds of props and things and videos of them firing and so forth. I'm so excited about the new show. Anyway, we will, the other one thing I got to mention is you can get a copy of my book, Tra-la. We'll actually have an ad for this that appears on the screen and stuff, shows off all the 80 pages of my wisdom. These are $15. If you want to, as buying online on this, if you want to get a hold of me on one of the numbers up there, the home numbers, or the office number, 702-257-1060, and leave a message. I will call you back and give you the information where to send the $10. They're normally 15, we do $10 and I'll send you a book. But when you leave your name and leave your contact number there too, thank you. There's a gun show coming up at the Sports Center weekend after next. We will have a table there. If you want to go there, there'll be some stuff about that on our website also, where to go and whatnot. And kind of the closing notes here. This is my short speech because I'm talking to myself. We are on YouTube. Now Thursdays, the shows will be broadcast at 4 p.m. On the half-hour format, we may go to more than one show a week. We will keep you apprised of that and of the rebooking of the show onto Facebook and a whole bunch of other media. We've got a secretary coming in who is going to handle all that, so she will respond to all the inquiries and so forth and so on, and I won't spend my entire day answering phone calls unless I need to. Most of them are just questions about where can I find this, and we can take care of that. Anyway, next week in our half-hour format, we'll have Paola Armani on to talk a little bit about this smoke shop shooting case. And I got to tell you right here, the defense team, Dominic Gentile and Paola and his firm, put together a brilliant defense. There's no other word for it, and hopefully we can get into some more details about the case. Some of it still they don't want released, and obviously because I'm involved in the case, I don't want to speak out of school here. Anyway, please tell your friends that the radio show is now available on Saturdays at kley.com or the Nevada Talk Network. We will still be broadcasting on every Thursday at 4 p.m. As I said, we may run more than one show a week. We may come up onto Facebook at the same time. We are. I'm just so excited about this new format. I'm. It's amazing what they are putting together. It is a work in progress. We're going to start adding stuff as it goes through and increasing bandwidth so we can broadcast on several media at the same time. It's going to be on Roku television, looks like, and lots of other media. This is really exciting for me, and you're going to be, as I said, it's a work in progress. We're going to add things every week. Right? 2 or 3 weeks in, we're going to put on a spectacular program on YouTube. So with that, I will say thanks for listening, and we will be back next week with a more interesting show, and more interesting as time flies after that. Thank you so much for listening. Do have a great weekend, and stay safe.